Hey everybody, this is episode 2 of Treat Dogs Like Dogs podcast, and we have a little bit of a treat for you. I had a 1 minute short video on YouTube go that went semi-viral. I think it's in the 300,000 views, but we have a lot of comments, and a lot of them actually give me the opportunity to kind of break down a lot of dog training methodology as well as kind of go over a lot of misconceptions or just outright, bullshit. So let's first start off by watching this video, and from there I'll start reading through these comments and breaking them down. Some of them are kind of similar, so I try to combine those comments together and allow us to really kind of dive into these comments. There are a bunch of negative ones. There's some positive ones. There's some questions. So it's a lot of good stuff, and I think it's a really good opportunity to really dive deep into this, what you're about to see. It's a behavior modification session where I'm working with a highly reactive dog. The dog is resource guarding the owner, and unfortunately, I get attacked by the dog due to the owner's negligence of listening to my instructions. So here is the video.
He's more focused on me wanting to get at me, right? You have to put him in check, right? Don't give him any good boys for this at all, right? It's rarely ever the dog. It's usually the handler. It's usually the handler. I'm going to see how he reacts without you around. Come on. Good boy. Hey. Hey. Good boy. Come on. Nope. This way. Good boy. Nope. Good boy. He's not happy, but he's also not being violent right now, which is a good sign. I don't know, have you ever had anybody that was able to just grab the lead and then him calm down this quickly before? Nobody? Okay, good. Okay, come on. Come on. Mm-hmm. No. 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 No.
All right, so if you're viewing on a different platform that can't physically see that video, so what happens is I'm working with this pit bull about 85 pounds, and at first the owners are holding this dog. I'm letting them know that there's no good boys for this. This dog is aggressive, violent, and needs to be put in check. That's not okay. Set boundaries, right? And so I realized very quickly that the dog is resource guarding the female handler, and I ask her to go inside. I tell her, don't come back out until I come and get you. And this way I can try to safely work with the dog. The male handler was allowed to stay outside. There was no issues with that. So I started handling this dog. This dog went from very aggressive at the very beginning, trying to get at me, and then immediately went from, ears pinned, tail tuck. I don't even want to look at you. I kind of want to get away from you. So its emotions are everywhere, right? That's fine. All I wanted to do was exist in the dog's presence. I asked the male handler if this was the first time anybody's been able to, you know, handle this dog, and he said yes. That's great. That's great. That means we're making some progress. Nonetheless, the male handler says the dog is a psycho, and the female decides to insert herself back into the situation and says that my dog's not a psycho, you're a psycho. She reached out the window, her half body out the window, and the dog looks at this and immediately gets on the defensive and goes for my leg, ends up muzzle punching me numerous times in the chest. I have to restrain the dog by doing pretty much what is considered an alpha roll for my safety and the dog's safety. But that was the gist of it. So now for some of the comments. None of these are in a particular order. I just kind of copied them from the comment section, the ones that I thought need to be addressed, and we're going to take it from there. All right, on to the first comment. There's no specific order for these comments. I just copied them from the comment section of that video on YouTube and put them on here so that way I can kind of quickly go through things. So first comments. Dude, look for another job because dogs can sense fear. And my dude, you was scared and it was writing all over your face. If he didn't have that muzzle, you was in trouble. He just told you the dog is a psycho, obviously for a reason. Okay, so that is a comment that's obviously from somebody that doesn't work with dogs, doesn't really know much about training methodologies. Yeah, I can say that I was a little nervous on this particular case. The dog was a lot more than I am used to. I am used to working with aggression and reactivity, but this was on a whole different level. So yeah, I mean, I was a little nervous about this, but I was very confident in my own capabilities, and so I tried very hard to keep a very neutral feeling about this entire job. Um, but yeah, I mean, dogs can absolutely sense how you're feeling for sure. If a dog can smell cancer, they can tell how you're feeling. It wasn't me that the dog was primarily sensing. It was definitely the handlers, and their anxieties, nervousness, frustration, things like that. If he didn't have that muzzle on, you was in trouble. Yes, 100%. I was caught off guard. The dog took advantage of that, and he went straight for my throat. I probably would not have been here today if the dog was not muzzled. So thankfully he was. The male handler calling the dog a psycho for a reason. I mean, I knew what I was getting into. I didn't need to be told by the owner, at that point that the dog had issues. Psycho wouldn't be what I would consider calling a dog. Behavioral issues are behavioral issues, aggression, fear, reactivity from fear, from anxiety, from various other complex reasons. Uh, but psycho's not what I would call a dog, any dog, really. Will somebody call Caesar? He is the best there is. These other trainers are rookies in comparison. All right, Caesar Milan. He's been doing this what, 30, 40 years, working with aggression and reactivity. Uh, he's pretty good. He has made mistakes, plenty of mistakes, but he does learn from a lot. He does keep up with a lot of modern research, reading, and training methodologies. He has changed things up quite a bit, but he has made plenty of mistakes. One thing that he continues to do is still use alpha theory, and call dogs pack animals. They're not pack animals. They're not like wolves that have a familial pack, which is, the parents. There is no pack leader in dogs. And yeah, it's just a lot of misconceptions. He does do that still, unfortunately. But yeah, these other trainers are rookies in comparison. I mean, most people are going to be rookies compared to somebody that's been doing it, 40 years. I'm not even 40 years old. So yeah, sure. Sure, we'll go with that. Uh, all right. This is how a dog acts when the man of the house is not an alpha male. Again, there are no alphas in dog groups. Dogs are social animals. Some dog could be the leader one day in a large group of dogs, and the very next day, another dog will be the leader. It can switch day to day, hour to hour. Um, but there are no alphas, and that there are leaders, but they can switch for sure. Some dogs are meant to just bite. Wrong choice in dog. Uh, no, some dogs are not meant to just bite. No dog is meant to just bite. That's so far outside of reality when it comes to understanding dog behavior, dog language, and understanding how to speak dog. Uh, Dogs aren't meant to bite. Some dogs, working dogs, that are meant to herd, which does include nipping at the back legs of livestock, but they're not meant to just bite. Um, Wrong choice in dog. That's pretty much saying that, pit bulls are meant to bite. We'll go over in a little bit because there are some comments specifically about pit bulls and bully breeds. So we'll deep dive that here shortly. Another muzzle one. If he didn't have that muzzle, dude would have been in an ambulance for sure. That trainer needs lessons from the dog daddy. Look him up. He's a magician. Okay, so dog daddy Augusto de la Vera. Um, he has been questioned by a lot of different trainers, specifically the positive reinforcement only, force free type crowd, Lima crowd, as well as the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior and other behaviorists, due to his methodology. But what he's doing a lot is he's doing a lot of flooding, but in a lot of these cases, the dogs need flooding. We are going to be deep diving flooding in another episode, so stay tuned for that eventually. But I don't necessarily disagree with the way Dog Daddy does things. I do things sometimes similar, but a little more gentle. Difference between me and Dog Daddy is that he travels from place to place to place constantly. He doesn't really stick in one spot long. So when he is working with a dog that has aggression or reactivity issues, he kind of has to just get as quick of results as possible, which is shutting the dog down with heavy flooding and then trying to build the dog's confidence back up as quickly as possible so that way the owners can feel more confident, have a hang on it, and start working the dog from there at a more level-headed area. The dog daddy, I don't know much about his knowledge of training methodology and behaviorism, but from what I've seen, he seems like a intuitive trainer, using his experience and intuition to train these dogs. But I have not seen him be abusive towards any dogs yet. I haven't seen any of his actual clients come out and talk about that. There's been a couple allegations, but they didn't seem to be any clients that he actually had. Uh, but him being a magician is not, I mean, anybody can do what he does as long as they have the right experience and knowledge. They can do it. It's not magic. It's just learning to speak in a language dogs understand, which is using all four quadrants of operant conditioning and classical conditioning, are the two main ones. Next one, it looks like it might be a trainer that commented. So many dog trainers in the comments, so many professional, accurate conclusions based on a YouTube short. That sounds like sarcasm, calling out a lot of people that was trying to give me advice on how to appropriately train this dog and where I went wrong. Uh, he's not wrong. There's a lot of armchair trainers out there that want to give their opinion when they've never been in the trenches working with a dog like this. Uh, there are some people that do have some hands-on experience from getting a shelter dog that has some reactivity issues, but it's not the same. It really isn't. All right, next. There's a lot of things I don't agree with on this channel as a trainer, but not everything is cut and dry, especially with owner circumstances. But you do a good job of managing the dogs and keeping them safe. Uh, yeah, absolutely. So my biggest priority in any of these types of session is safety. My safety, the owner's safety, any helper that I have, whether it be my helper dogs or people helping, employees, teammates, as well as the dog that I'm working with. Safety is priority. If I can't keep all of these people, including myself, safe, I'm not going to be doing these services, for sure. So I appreciate that. All right, next, another positive one. Great job by the trainer. Everybody's saying she the problem and forgetting to tell this man he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Kept composure and handled the situation, asserting dominance with the dog, never being in danger of being hurt. Very well handled. Um, yes and no. So I appreciate them calling out that I did a good job with this situation in their eyes. There was hundreds of comments already that saying that the lady here, the female owner, is the problem. And not a lot of people were actually talking about the training itself. So I did not assert dominance. I restrained the dog. That wasn't an alpha role for dominance purposes. That's not the reason for it. And never being in danger of being hurt. I actually broke two ribs on this one. This was 6, 7 months ago. Yeah, I broke two ribs. So I was definitely in danger of being hurt. But thank you. Thank you for the compliment. All right, this next one. I remember reading this one and I think I responded, but I'll respond here in a new set of words. So it says, the dog is fine in my eyes. He does not like strangers, plain and simple. I bet he won't let somebody break into your house. Like most of these videos I see online, I don't need my dog to be friendly to nobody that doesn't belong in my house. All caps. Uh, I always made my parents come over to interact with my dogs if need be, because I know I teach mine to go for none of that. Okay, so a lot of that sounds like projection. Maybe they feel attacked by a lot of the comments or myself. I'm not sure. But it does seem like a lot of projection, like their dogs they've had in the past have been reactive and violent and aggressive. Uh, but the idea of, my dog doesn't need to be friendly to nobody that doesn't belong in my house. I mean, sure, your dog doesn't have to be friendly to people that don't belong in your house, but people that were intentionally invited over absolutely does need to be friendly. That anything past that is unacceptable. Uh, he doesn't like strangers, plain and simple. It's not that he doesn't like strangers, like that dog was on another level and it was just the behavior was dangerous, very dangerous. That dog can kill somebody, kill another animal. So, that's just that's just a that's a bad pet owner, honestly, to have that mindset. Uh, Dogs need to understand where the line is. Another good compliment on this next one. It says, nice, you're awesome, man. I understand training other pets. You don't want to be too firm, but with my own dog, oh, you want to bite? Each time I'm side submitting. Each time I will get rougher until the dog gets it. LOL. But with someone else's pet, this is perfect. Okay, so I'm very firm when it comes to these type of issues because if, and I've been bit plenty of times. And it happens. It's going to happen. Uh, I've been bit more by little dogs than big dogs for sure. But nonetheless, if it wasn't me and it was somebody else, those dogs could easily be euthanized. So a couple things about this comment. Uh, Talking about their own dog. If their dog wants to bite, they're gonna side submit. So they're talking about an alpha roll where you take the dog and you force it on its side and you basically, hover it. You're putting the fear of God into this dog. You're telling this dog that I could kill you right now if I wanted to. Uh, I don't condone that. It's not a good practice. It really isn't. So I don't think that's the greatest way to stop biting behavior. Doing the proper corrections is, and matching energy is. But I mean, I'm not too much into the alpha theory and dominating another dog. It's not how I do things. Each time it will get rougher until the dog gets it. I don't know what they mean by that. I hope they're not being abusive. I do match dogs' energy constantly, but it's not like if a dog bites me, I'm gonna bite it back. It's just you got to match the energy sometimes. That so-called trainer is doing everything wrong. Beta trainers. All right. When I see comments like this, the very first thing I do, and pretty much the only thing I do, is ask for further information on what went wrong. And then I ask them to link a video of them working with similar dogs with similar behaviors. It's proof of concept. If somebody wants to call my training methodologies wrong or bad or anything in between, show me a video of you doing it. Proof of concept. Oh, another dog daddy one. You need dog daddy to teach you how to keep it under control at all times. All caps on this one. So it doesn't matter how experienced somebody is. I'm very experienced in this. I was caught off guard. This was the first time I've ever had an owner blatantly ignore what I requested as a safety measure, um, out of pure, I don't know, narcissism. I'm assuming, I don't know. But you know, even if Dog Daddy or Caesar Milan or I don't know, Joel Beckman or or anybody that works with these kinds of dogs, and the owner just randomly stopped listening to the instructions you gave them, they could easily be in this exact same situation. So, okay. Dog daddy, I guess, come out and teach me your ways. This guy tells you that you need to, so, um, I guess listen to him, or come on the podcast. Let's talk, actually. I'll see if I can reach out to you. All right, so next one. It's rarely ever the dog is the handler, in quotes. They're quoting me. Uh, it continues, this is a popular platitude spouted off by people who are ignorant about pit bulls and their natural prey drive, impulsivity, and aggression that was bred into them specifically. Okay, so it's not ignorance. The dogs I work with, reactive dogs, aggressive dogs, it rarely ever is the dog. It is usually the handler. Is usually the handler not teaching the dog what is acceptable and what is not. So it's not a, nonsense that people that are ignorant about pit bulls spout out, right? Now, as far as pit bulls go, prey drive, sure, they have prey drive towards other animals. They were blood sport dogs. Impulsivity and aggression, towards other animals, not people. They were not bred to be aggressive towards other people. So the whole misconception about pit bulls, being violent towards other people is usually because of issues like handlers, training them wrong or mishandling them. It's because they were dumped and have to live as strays on the street, and now they're fearful of people. They've been abused. They were in shelters where the environment was highly stressful and they became reactive aggressive. There's plenty of different reasons. And since pit bulls are one of the largest quantity breeds that you're going to see either abandoned or relinquished into shelters, it's obvious why we have more bites and deaths caused by pit bulls than any other breeds. But we could say the same when it comes to prey drive and aggression towards other animals for like hunting breeds, for instance. That's what they do. They hunt small animals, so they're going to have a lot more aggression towards other animals, naturally embedded in them, but it's not just a pit bull breed specific thing. And they're not bred to be aggressive, or they were never bred to be aggressive towards humans. All right, this next one. That's the least of your worries when it comes to behaviors ignored by force-free trainers. There's one in my area who urges her clients not to crate train. Pulling leads to reactivity, so you could say it's good business to be a dog trainer that doesn't fix your dog, but instead tries to appeal to your soft side by being really nice to your dog, but at the same time being cruel for creating problems they don't have the will to fix. Whew, that's a mouthful. So let's first start off by force-free. Force-free is a buzzword. It's fake. There's no such thing as force-free training. A leash is force, at its most basic level of force. There's no such thing as force-free. Force-free, anybody that claims to be force-free is just playing at the heartstrings of pet owners to try to get more clients. They're more than likely positive reinforcement only, so like treats, rewards, reinforcers, and that side of things, and won't do any form of punishment or negative reinforcements. Usually that's that crowd. Now, this person they're talking about specifically, talking about crate training, not crate training. I think every dog should be crate trained at some point. If your dog gets injured, needs to go to the veterinarian, stayed overnight, they're going to be in a crate. And if they're not crate trained, it's going to be highly stressful for them. And if it's something where they had surgery, they're more likely to pull out stitches. The stress can lead to other issues. They can injure themselves in the crate. There's a lot of things. So I crate train your dogs and muzzle train at that, because a dog, even if your dog is not a bite risk, if they are in pain ever, they can be a bite risk. So muzzle training is a good idea as well. Let's see. Pulling leads to reactivity. So you could say it's good business to be a dog trainer that doesn't fix your dog. Okay, so pulling doesn't always lead to reactivity. pulling can be a symptom of reactivity, but it doesn't always lead to reactivity. But pulling's never good. You don't want your dog to always pull on the lead. Okay, next. Now this one's good. Because there's a misconception on this one as well. Hopefully, this is a wake-up call for any positive only trainers that are watching this, right? Okay, so positive only, right? There's two different types of positives, right? There's positive reinforcement and positive punishment. Positive reinforcement only are the people that use only positive reinforcements that I just spoke about. Positive only are trainers that use positive reinforcement and positive punishment. A lot of people don't realize that. So when somebody says I'm a positive only trainer, they are using punishments. They're just not using negative punishment, and they're also not using negative reinforcement. They're using positive reinforcement and positive punishment, combining them up in order to train dogs. So that's the big misconception there that I wanted to talk about. Next, the fact that you had to put a reassurance up for simple-minded people for how you handle that animal just goes to show that far too many people forget that these dogs are still animals regardless of how you feel about them. And they still need to be treated as such because that's how they understand. No amount of treating them like a human is going to make them human. They will always be animals. Okay, so yeah, I had to put a reassurance up. I had to say that, this restraint was not abusive. It was for mine and the dog's safety, when I had to put the dog on the ground. Uh, so I did have to put that up because I already knew that somebody was going to try to say that it's abusive. So I went ahead and did that. But yes, I agree completely that dogs are not people. Anthropomorphizing dogs is horrible, horrible to do to your animals. My go-to all the time is treat dogs like dogs. Dogs are not people, they're dogs. There's a language that you have to learn that speaks to them. And yeah, no amount of treating them like human is going to make them human, just like this commenter said. So well said. Someone asked, is resource guarding like he is trying to protect who he knows feeds and waters him? They said, I kind of have the same problem where he will calm down when I'm not around, but when I'm around, he is high alert and lunges at others. So, excuse me, long day. Did not mean to yawn for everybody. So, resource guarding is whenever a dog decides that they own something and they refuse to let anything else take ownership of whatever it owns, right? And in this case, with the Pitbull in the video, it had a very perverted sense of ownership of the female handler. And so that's what resource guarding is, and their issue is that they never set boundaries. They never told the dog that they do not want this. This is not okay. And the same goes with the person in the comments. Guaranteed it's the same thing. If your dog is fine normally, but when you're around, they start lunging at others, you need to put an end to that. That is unacceptable behavior. Oh, I like this one. So this one says, this man is training dogs that are aggressive to be nice in shorts. Okay, so what a lot of people think is that if you're going to be training dogs, especially aggressive dogs, you need to be wearing long pants, right? Uh, I'm in Florida. I don't care. I'm not wearing long pants. I'm wearing shorts. If the dog's gonna bite my pant leg, they can easily bite my leg. It's not gonna make a difference, right? I like to honestly look at it like if you're working with machinery, things with moving parts. You don't wear gloves around things with moving parts because it can get caught in there and you can hurt yourself. I think the same way with a dog. I much rather have bare skin right here that a dog cannot just clamp onto than having pant legs that they can just grab and start tripping me up. And which has happened to me, where a dog has grabbed my pant leg, and now the dog has something that it can definitely grip onto. Uh, so that's my opinion. Teach their own, right? Wear what you want to wear. If you want, if you want to train dogs in a Speedo, do it. Nobody's stopping you. This is what real dog trainers look like. Bro read the situation precisely, then had his methods blundered by this ignorant woman who's so worried about her dog's feelings that she's willing to put others at risk. She thinks she's so good, she interferes when a professional is handling her dog and sends her dog into a frenzy. Thank you for the compliments, but ignorance, whatever the reason was, but yeah, my methods were blundered by it, and it destroyed any type of relationship I would have built with this dog. This dog at that point did not want to have anything to do with me, and so that really hurt the session. And yeah, it did seem like she was too worried about her dog's feelings and went to the defensive very quickly, rather than just asking what or doing what she was asked to do. Oh, this next one's cool, and I do have somebody that wants to come up on the podcast that is a wolf expert, and we're going to go into similarities and misconceptions people have about wolves versus dogs. But this person in the comments, the reason why I'm saying this is talking about wolves. So, wolves, ancestors of dogs. Um, obviously go for the neck. However, initially they try to immobilize, tackle you, or bite ankles, then go for a jugular. Unless the jugular is crucially needed to immobilize big prey. There's been much more reports of severe maulings from a dog than a direct hit to the jugular. Wolves are sometimes reported eating their prey alive. It's also risky and sloppy for any animal to hunt with a direct jugular hit, even lions. But there's acrobatic agility. Oh, sorry, even lions, but their acrobatic agility makes it an exception. Uh, that dog is one of a kind danger even after trained. Um, so the dog wasn't trained yet. I don't know if the dog's trained. I haven't heard from them yet. Since then they ghosted me. Probably out of embarrassment or something. Don't know. But yeah, yeah, I have not seen many dogs go straight for that area of the body either. That dog is dangerous, very dangerous. That's true. But yeah, that's neat information. I'm gonna save that comment and I'm gonna ask my wolf expert friend and see what they have to say about it in the future. Two problems here. Firstly, the owner. Then we got the dog trainer who's nervous but more interested in getting them to say, no, you're the only one that's ever held his lead, etc. Get your ego fixed somewhere else. Um, Okay, first off, yes, the owner was a problem. Me asking if anybody's ever handled the dog before or the dog calmed down so as quickly. I know the dog wasn't calm in this video, but in comparison to how he was initially acting, his attitude was not the same. He was relatively calm in comparison to that. The only reason why I was asking that wasn't to pat myself on the back. It was to gather more information. While I'm doing these sessions, there's only so much information I can get at the time when I'm doing my assessment, but as things come up, I'm going to want to find out more information to see if we're making progress, see if this is something that's usual or unusual, see where, because it's training is sometimes making the right guess and sometimes it's really methodologic method methodical. Oh my goodness, methodical. Sometimes it's methodical, sometimes it's not. In this case, there were so many things going on with this dog and the body language and behavior that I need to keep asking questions and find out where are we going with this, to make sure that we are going in the right direction. All right, I'm just gonna read these three, or four in a row. They're generally the same. Someone says, "Dude, stop training pits. You don't understand the breed clearly." Someone says, "Normal pit bull behavior." Someone says, "You have the wrong dog. Let a dog be what he was born to be." Advice from an old man who knows bulldogs. You clearly do not. Someone says, "Quit with the not the dog, not the breed BS." It's a huge issue with a lot of bully breed dogs because of selective breeding for blood sport traits over centuries genetics. Most owners are not equipped to handle a game bred pit. Breed matters. Quit saying dangerously stupid shit. All right. So dog fighting became illegal in the United States in 1976. So that's what, 76, 80, 90, 2000, 2016. So over 40, going soon enough, going to be 50 years ago. That's long enough to not breed a dog for a specific task to start changing behaviors. Yes, there's going to be some dogs that are genetically predisposed to being violent, uh, but that's not going to be the case anymore for pit bulls. You know, they're not primarily bred for that. A lot of them are bred for work. A lot of them are bred for companion animals. And they were never bred, again, to be human aggressive. That's not what they were bred for. Even in blood sport, that's not what they were bred for. So breeds do matter when it comes to understanding them at a base level. But what matters very much so as well as environmental factors, as well as the handler and how well they train that dog. Set boundaries, punishments, reinforcements, speaking the language that the dog understands. Yeah, all of that matters. So no, it's funny. It's not normal pit bull behavior to attack humans. Um, it's dogs are not born to be aggressive like that. It's just it's not it. It's misconceptions. This one says, that's what happens when you have an energetic dog that does not get enough exercise. Very plain to see. Ooh, no, this is not what happens. No, when a dog doesn't get enough exercise, they're going to be bored, right? They're going to start probably being destructive in the household from boredom. They're going to be up your ass for attention. They're going to start showing behaviors that are unwanted, but it's not going to be at this level of aggression. It's not going to be this level of reactivity from being bored. Uh, that's a ridiculous comment. Sometimes dogs do attack trainers, especially in the beginning. This doesn't mean the trainer did anything wrong. Some of the best trainers in the world who deal with very aggressive dogs have been attacked numerous times. However, a good trainer will know how to deal with it and correct the behavior. That's why the trainer is there to correct bad behavior when it happens. Well, depending on the session. But yeah, that's why I was there for that, to correct the behavior at the appropriate time and to start positively building this dog back up. I wanted to work on classical conditioning, start changing the emotion behind strangers in the dog's eyes. But I didn't get there. I didn't get to do that because we all saw the video or heard about it. I really hope every dog owner sees this. So many owners act like setting any sort of boundary is abusive to their pets, but then act shocked when their dog exhibits unwanted behavior. Yes, setting boundaries is so important in dog training. It is so important. Punishments are not bad. Punishments just means reducing a behavior. How you get there is important. Is the motivation stronger than the motivator? Uh, or vice versa. You know, you have to figure out what works for the dog in front of you, train the dog in front of you, but train the dog. You know, like teach them what is acceptable and unacceptable behavior. How much do you want to bet this was some backyard DIY protection training gone wrong? I see it all the time. Protection training is bite work training. There are trainers out there that train for bite work. The object is, of course, you're utilizing some aggression traits of a dog, but you're training it to be a command, so that way you can also train a call off command, right? When people do DIY bite work training, what happens is they're just focusing on how aggressive can I make my dog. And that is the worst way to go about it. That's how you have issues. And honestly, looking at this video and all these weird behaviors, like this dog was so messed up, right? And I know the owners told me one thing, but I mean, I couldn't trust them to listen to directions. How much can I trust them to tell me the truth about how the dog's past was before they got the dog, you know? So it could be that. Could be. I don't know. I'll never know. But yeah, maybe. So this one says, real dog trainers take on any dog with any problem. Not many do it as lovingly as this guy. This is top notch. Cheering for you all the way, bro. Thanks, dude. Appreciate it. So the only thing I disagree with this, because I'm not going to disagree compliments, is any real dog trainers train dogs is real dog trainers take on any dog with any problem. Uh no, there are so many different types of dog trainers, and most dog trainers will end up specializing in one niche or another within dog training. You could be the best obedience trainer in the world, an advanced obedience trainer in the world. You could be the best scent trainer or search and rescue trainer or service animal trainer or sport trainer or behavior modification trainer, and so on. I'm not the best sport dog trainer. I refer people to sport dog trainers. I don't train for service animals. I specialize in behavior modification, applied behavioral analysis with reactivity and aggression. So I take on any dog with any problem, but there's other types of trainers out there, and just because some people don't want to work with aggression or reactivity doesn't mean they're not a real trainer, right? So, I mean, that's that. There's a lot of good trainers out there that don't do what I do. And now we have a second part of this that has nothing to do with that video, but a lot of my other videos have had comments. So a lot of them are general comments that I want to kind of go over that could give a little bit of insight, advice, or knowledge when it comes to behavior and training. So none of these are in any type of order or contributed to a particular video of mine. They're all kind of mixed around within different videos. So someone says, I hate when I hear people say, can you sit? It's sit with a firm voice. Yes, absolutely. In a video, I had to tell one of my clients to not ask their dog, tell their dog. And it was pretty funny. They immediately changed it from, hey, can you sit? Can you please sit? To sit. And then the dog like immediately sat down. And I was like, there you go. Yeah. Don't ask your dog, tell your dog, right? This is obedience training. You're training the dog to be obedience. So we're not asking, we're telling the dog this is what we want from them. Someone was watching one of my clients in a video working on leash control, and they said she needs some training. Yeah, that's why she hired me. That is why she hired a trainer, because not everybody is a professional dog handler. It doesn't matter your age. You might get your first dog when you're in your 50s or when you're 12, or who cares, right? Not everybody's a professional dog trainer. And I don't expect them to be. That's why I have a job. Uh, they're not. And even people that had dogs their entire life, maybe dealing with a first time issue they've never had to deal with. And so they don't know how to deal with it. And that's why they hire a trainer. So when I see comments like this, I usually shut them down because it's not needed, it's not necessary. It's ridiculous. The person hired a trainer because they need training. Duh. Like makes sense. This next one says sometimes you don't give the treat so they don't become reliant on the action versus command equals reward. Okay, so I know what they're trying to say. They're basically saying that, relying on treats for bribery is not always good, and their action or the command that you give them should be the action, not just because you have a reward for them. So yeah, in training, what you should be doing is you should obedience specifically, let's go with that. You should be using treats. Positive reinforcement is amazing for molding and shaping behaviors as well as commands, actionable body movements and placements. So when it comes to that, use treats, right? But then start Start spreading out the amounts of treats that you give for the quantity of commands, right? We want to start reducing the quantity of treats. So if I'm doing a sit, stay, lay down, come, and stuff like that, mixing them up is great, but I'll start with sit, treat, sit, treat, sit, stay, treat, sit, stay, lay down, treat, sit, stay, lay down, come, sit, stay, treat, sit, stay, come, lay down, stay, sit, treat. Like I want to spread it out. I want to spread it out and see how many commands I can do without having to give them a treat, right? And eventually you can start phasing treats out and reward every so often. If you train a marker, you load a marker. A marker could be a clicker, it could be the word yes. It doesn't matter what your marker is. It's just marking a point in time that's rewarding a behavior or an action that the dog did. And so if you use a marker, you can phase out treats altogether and then utilize that marker. This person says, my dog has been off leash running free in a fenced yard. When he is on leash, he pulls like crazy and don't know how to walk. I'm an amputee, so it gets dangerous. I would love to be able to walk him on a leash, but I've just given up. So as far as that goes, I mean, I'm sorry about your disability and it can get dangerous, right? But they have tools for this. E-collars are fine to use if done appropriately. And that can definitely help with this. Prong collars can definitely help with this. A lot of people that are in situations like this, amputee or not, uh, are afraid to use these tools. Even if you have to hire a trainer for one session to learn how to use these tools, it can completely change your and your dog's livelihoods for the better. So I would suggest them, especially if doing something that should be normal, like going on a walk, becomes dangerous for you. It says, I like the way you balance out all the kinds of trainings available for dog training nowadays. Yeah, I use all different training methodologies and I change the way I do things. I'm considered a balanced trainer, but some days I'm force free. But some days I am positive reinforcement only. Some days I work towards more of the punishments. Uh, some days I'm very Lima, which is least intrusive, minimally aversive, right? So I try not to do many aversions, try to be least intrusive, but sometimes I have to correct. I change it up all the time because it's all about training the dog in front of you. Again, motivators, motivation. Your dog is motivated for something. What do you need to do to motivate that dog to be motivated for what you want them to do, right? So so it could be treats, it could be a toy, it could be praise. If it's none of that, then what do we do? It could be a correction, it could be a squirt bottle, it could be a noise, it could be a prong collar, an e-collar, it could be just simply stopping the walk so they don't pull anymore. It depends on the dog. High drive dogs are going to be less food motivated. Low drive dogs are going to be more food motivated normally. But train the dog in front of you. And it's not that hard, honestly. I mean, there's a lot that goes into it, a lot of knowledge when it comes to methodologies, but you can use a lot of just gut feeling when it comes to training, and if it just doesn't feel right for that dog, then it probably isn't right for that dog. Pay attention to your dogs. This person says treats are not reliable. Wrong. They are extremely reliable for a food motivated dog and working towards obedience training, shaping behaviors. They're amazing for classical conditioning to change a emotion towards positive feelings of something. Treats are very reliable and they are known to do wonders, but you have to group those up with punishment as well because you can't teach a dog what not to do unless you teach a dog what not to do, right? Another one. This is why you never train dogs with treats. Uh, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. I'm just simple. That's wrong. Train dogs with treats, guys. Treats are fun. Treats are good. Train them with treats, right? Just don't bribe all the time. So people make the mistake of thinking positive reinforcement means no consequences. My rescue could choke himself because he would pull so hard. The trick was positive reinforcement when he wasn't pulling and corrections when he wasn't. So no, positive reinforcement means reinforcing a behavior or increasing the likelihood of a behavior happening by adding something to the equation. The positive is adding, reinforcement is increasing a behavior, right? Adding something to increase behavior. I mean, it's reinforcers are good consequences. If we want to say, that's a consequence, of the action, sure. But I think what they're talking about is punishment. Corrections are punishment. But I don't think people are making a mistake of thinking positive reinforcement means no consequences or no punishments. What they're actually doing is they know that positive reinforcements is not punishment. It's not. Definition, it's not. Um, so yeah, but no, they're good. They said positive reinforcement when he's not pulling and corrections when he is. Great. That is the perfect way to do it. Okay, so I'm gonna read a couple of these, because it's the same type of thing. There's a dog, Sammy, in a muzzle while training, and someone says he wants water. Someone else says, I think the dog is thirsty and needs water, and plus, it's different for him to breathe all excited. Water, water, calmness, treats. Okay, so water. He wants water. I'm sorry, but we're not doing heavy physical exercise. If it's not super hot out and it's like a 30-minute session, the dog doesn't need water. It just doesn't, you know. Uh, Now, as far as the breathing, I use either a cage or basket muzzle. Dogs can breathe perfectly fine through those, and in those type of muzzles, they can also drink water if they want to, right? And they can also take treats. Uh, they can breathe. I think I already said that. But then they said water, water, calmness, treats. Um, I don't know how to explain that. That's not how you train a dog, especially a dog that is automatically over threshold like Sammy was. A dog that is aggressive. You can't have calmness when the dog refuses to be calm. It's just, yeah, nope. Um, Next comment. The tugging of the leash is no when training. They're talking about my leash pops, right? So when I leash pop, it's just a quick pop of the leash, right? I'm popping. Nothing to fling a dog, nothing to make the dog hurt, not enough to hurt the trachea. Um, but it's a correction. It's to get the dog's attention saying, "Hey, look at me. Whatever you're doing, don't do it." Right? Um, that's not a no when training. That's somebody that's never trained a dog that has ever done any behavior that's unwanted, I guess. I guess all their dogs have always healed, when walking loose leash right out the gate. So that's awesome. They got a bunch of unicorns. This is all wrong. Free should mean they're talking about a command. The command free should mean the dog is free to go be a dog, not meaning to heal and wait for the next command immediately. So we were walking, working on loose leash walking, and I stopped the walk when there's pulling. And as the dog stops and is loose leash but standing there, I say free. And that tells the dog they are free from being in command. Uh, Free does not necessarily mean you're free to go be a dog and do whatever you want, unless you train that dog to be that way, right? When I train a dog with the free command, the release command, they are free from being in command, but it does not necessarily mean that they're free to go be a dog, right? If they're free to go be a dog, they're in my yard or in a fenced area with no leash. If I have my hands on a leash, they are still supposed to be obedient on that leash. Uh, the trainer talks too much to the dog. Um, so I don't talk too much to the dog. A lot of times when I'm talking to a dog excessively, is usually when there's a dog that is anxious. And so just existing in my presence, it doesn't matter how much I'm talking. It's all about the inflection. It's all about the tone of voice, right? It doesn't have to be understanding what I'm saying. But existing in my space really helps a dog with an anxiety to kind of break through that and realize that I'm not there to hurt you. You know, you're just chilling where I am and we're talking, we're having a good time. And that's the reality of things. If the owner walks around in public, the dog's going to hear people talking. It's, it's not going to be quiet all the time. So who cares how much I'm talking to the dog, right? Someone says, hilarious. You're building the drive for the trigger by correcting with an e-collar while the dog is focusing on the trigger. You can clearly see the dog escalate when corrected, but the average dog owner won't see that and will pay for your service to mess up their dog. Okay. So it's e-collar training with a dog named Yogi. So Yogi is leash reactive towards other animals, cats, dogs, squirrels, birds, you name it, right? And lunges at the end of the leash, whines, barks, grunts, all the things. All the things. He just gets overstimulated very easily. We tried originally, they used to walk on a harness. We tried the harness with corrections. Got a little bit of progress, not enough though. So we tried a flat collar, corrections, some reinforcement, some leash etiquette. Uh, some progress, not where we were wanting to be. We tried a martingale collar, not where we wanted to be. So we jumped onto the e-collar, right? And with the e-collar, what we're really focusing on is classical conditioning, so changing the emotion behind it. So yeah, when the dog was focused in this video, really heavy focus, tunnel vision on a cat, I was correcting with the e-collar. The dog doesn't know, the e-collar yet. So yeah, the dog triggered while being corrected and went for the cats. But within 2 sessions, the dog now just looks at cats and just walks by, all happy to be on a walk. The dog still has some reactivity towards other dogs, but that is it at this point. And it's only when the dog is reactive towards him first. So we're still working on that, but this person doesn't use e-collars apparently. And they didn't understand what was going on in the video. All right. It's all about timing. I'll just backtrack a little bit. It's all about timing, right? And knowing what the goal of the session is. Um, I don't want to time it wrong. So if I just correct the dog before any sign of escalation of their threshold, getting closer to the threshold, uh, then I'll correct. But if I don't see that yet, I'm not going to start correcting a dog for no reason. That's called being trigger happy. And when you're trigger happy, the dog will learn how to blow off the trigger. They're just whatever. I'm confused, don't know why. So I'm just going to keep doing what I do. We don't want that. Someone talking about lip licks. The lip licks means he's trying to convey he is friendly as well. So lip licks, air licks, when a dog does that, it can mean a lot of different things. It can be, bro, I don't want to fight you. It can be, I'm high stressed. I'm anxious. It can mean, I'm friendly. Again, bro, I don't want to fight you. It can be an appeasement. Bro, I don't want to fight you. A lot of bros, I don't want to fight you. It's either I'm not here to fight or I'm highly stressed. It's gonna be one or the other, uh, for the most part. So yeah. Another e-collar comment. We had a vibrating one that made a beep noise for our dog. Mostly because we tried literally everything to make her stop barking and had finally become desperate enough. It did not shock. We just don't believe in those personally. That's fine. Uh, she hated that thing. Would tuck her tail every time it went off. Okay, so funny. A lot of people don't realize that we don't decide what's aversive to the dog. The dog decides what's aversive to the dog. So um A vibrate on an e-collar. E-collars will tend to have a beep sound, a vibrate, and then either one or two levels that you can set for the shock stimulation. And the shock stimulation, you can increase the stimuli, being from very almost unnoticeable to extremely high. So with that said, vibration can be a lot more aversive to a dog than the stimulation of a shock. It really depends on the dog. So that person, where their dog would tell every time it went off, um, that vibrate might have terrified that dog, while a shock might not have. Depends on the dog, you know? So even though you don't believe in the shock, you might have been making it worse for the dog with the vibrate. Nobody comments when the dog actually learns and listens. Great trainer. Um, Thank you, but that is generally how online platforms work. People like controversy, people like being negative, and so that's normally what you're gonna see most of the time is people commenting that type of stuff, which is fine. It allows me to have a platform like this, uh, where I get to dive deep into these things and start educating. And education is key to this stuff. I want everybody to learn as much as possible. What is flooding? Edit. I looked it up. If I understand it correctly, it's overexposing the dog to a stimulus that causes them anxiety. Yes and no. Okay, so flooding is purposely overexposing the dog to stimulation. It can cause anxiety. It can shut the dog down. It's also used for a lot of other approaches. Uh, Flooding is sometimes necessary. It is. An example of flooding would be, let's say you have a service animal and you need to go to a high populated area and the service animal is not used to that yet. You're gonna still need to get used to that. So a lot of people will flood the dog. It doesn't mean that they're gonna go over threshold or shut down, but it is going to quickly get them exposure to that type of situation. Some dogs I've flooded, purposely flooded, would be a dog that I can be 200 feet away and the dog is still over threshold trying to eat me. So no amount of treats is going to work with this dog. I'm not going to accept them. So in order for me to safely work with this dog, I have to flood it. I have to shut it down, and then I have to start finally at a safe level, build that dog back, confidence back up, using positive reinforcement. And it has worked in those situations, but it is dog by dog. And it depends on why they're being reactive. Look at this jerk just jerking on the dog's neck. Downvote top right. Don't recommend this channel. Plenty of legitimate trainers on YouTube that follow modern behavioral science techniques. Next one says, stop jerking her leash. It's absolutely unnecessary. Okay, first off, it was necessary. Leash corrections are necessary for reactivity. That's just unacceptable behavior. To lunge at somebody is unacceptable behavior. I will correct. Look at this jerk jerking on the dog's neck. That's just the way that's typed is trying to make me look bad. At least corrections. It's not me jerking around on the dog's neck, yanking crank, and call it a day. It's correcting a dog's behavior at a level the dog can understand. Let's see. They also said they hold plenty of trainers on YouTube that follow modern behavioral science techniques. I want to deep dive in that. That's going to be another 2-hour video or podcast to deep dive into that. So I'll just keep that to myself for right now. Okay, but correct how? Everyone says correct the behavior, but no one wants to say how. I think that's just not understanding what we mean. It's punishment. It's punishment. Do something to reduce the behavior. How? Spray bottle, e-collar, prong collar, leash corrections, removing the dog from your area, stopping the walk, going in an opposite direction and then returning until the dog can learn. So back and forths. Telling the dog no, telling dog to leave it, taking the toy away from the dog, treat withholding. There's so many different things. There's so many different things you can do to correct behaviors. Harnesses ruin dogs. No, they don't. Harnesses make it easier for a dog to pull most of the time because they're more comfortable pulling in one. Doesn't mean that they ruin dogs. There's plenty of dogs that can learn to walk nicely on a harness. It's all about how you utilize the tools. I'm a dog groomer, but coincidentally, I want to get into training as well one day. I still need to look into schools, but this is a start. Love your content. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, you don't have to just stick yourself into one category. If you want to be a groomer and a trainer, great. If you want to be a groomer and work with puppy obedience, awesome. If you want to start studying behavior modification, reactivity, and aggression, and then be able to groom those kind of dogs that all the other groomers say no to, you'll be like me. Um, yeah, awesome. Awesome. Do it. Do it. It's a hard world to be in working with other people's animals. And if you don't like working with other people, it's not the job for you because that's going to be most of it is training people how to speak dog. So you're working with owners a lot more than you think. But yeah, so that is it for this episode. I hope you got a lot of good, useful information about that. And feel free to subscribe, like, comment. Tell me what you liked about this content. And if you have any questions or thoughts about anything we talked about, feel free to talk about it. And I'll see you on the next episode. Have a good night or day or wherever you're at. Just have a good one.